As you have probably heard already, Evergrande has been basically told to liquidate their assets. This is going to be an interesting one, and I'm going to go through my thoughts and opinions on what this might mean for the crypto market. Let's roll the intro and get right down into it. Hi guys, welcome back to the United Kingdom. We didn't actually get to do too much recording out in Dubai, but we will be back out there in a few weeks and we'll try to get some more footage of Dubai. We managed to get a couple of walk and talks in, but that was about it really. Kind of quite a manic and kind of rushed off our feet whilst we were over there. But of course we're back in the UK, we landed and we've been kind of greeted just a few hours ago with some pretty big news in the world of property, right? So we've known for quite some years at this point that Evergrande have had a number of issues, avoiding bankruptcy a number of times, but today Hong Kong's court and authorities have basically told Evergrande that they have to liquidate. Now this has some pretty devastating and it will send ripples across the markets, and it's going to be probably going to take some time to kind of really truly see the damage that is done here, but it is going to affect a lot of people. Not because, you know, they have property that was developed by Evergrande or things like that, but almost to do with the things that Evergrande were involved in, the assets and the investments that they had, those all will be liquidated, all the way through to, you know, the people who are directly affected by Evergrande's liquidation. Okay, now obviously there's been a number of problems pretty much from 2021, and it does affect a lot of people's lives, right? So kind of, you know, my thoughts go out to everyone who is going to be affected by this, either directly or indirectly, you know, outside of just your standard investments. It is going to be pretty bad, I think, for a little while for many people, specifically, you know, out in kind of the Hong Kong, China, Asian regions as well. It's going to be quite difficult, I would have thought, for quite some time over there. So what does this actually mean? Well, it means that the creditors of Evergrande are likely to see some of their money back, right? So I think Evergrande had about $300 billion of debt. The largest of which was, or the largest amount of debt was held by, I should say, BlackRock and HSBC. Now we know that BlackRock have got a lot going on at the moment, right? Whether that is your Ethereum spot ETFs or your Bitcoin spot ETFs. And we know that HSBC has also been in the news recently, I say recently, but over the last few months or so, specifically with US banks that were failing and buying out some of that debt as well, right? So they're going to be hit pretty hard by Evergrande, and I'll kind of explain why in just a moment. And there could be ripples that are felt in other markets as they've got to try to balance out their debts in places. Now, this will be a really top level kind of video. It's not going to give you a huge amount of insight, so I do urge you guys to kind of do your own research, dig into this a little bit more, and start to understand just a little bit more of what is going on with Evergrande and, you know, how that could potentially affect yourselves and so forth. So with about, I think it's $200 billion of debt that is currently owned by BlackRock and HSBC, that could be pretty interesting to see how they deal with that and how they cope with it. Okay, so Evergrande is going to be a pretty big catalyst, right? Many people might say black swan, although we have known about it for quite some time. You know, we've had kind of years to kind of prepare for such an event. Now, I think BlackRock is going to be obviously okay. They're 300 billion, 200 billion a day or whatever. It isn't really a huge amount to them, but it will be pretty impactful though, so we want to be mindful of that. Same with HSBC. These are not small companies by any stretch of the imagination, but it will be kind of affected nonetheless quite badly by Evergrande in this particular stance. So what does this mean for crypto? So it's all going to be about ripples. No, not Ripple and XRP, although great projects. Will I actually mean the ripple effects that we're going to see from Evergrande into other companies? Now, when it comes to cryptocurrency, it's no secret that many institutions around the world have some form of exposure. They might not be all in on crypto, but they're going to have potentially a little bit of like BTC or Ethereum on their balance sheets. Now, as we kind of see the capital markets get shaken and the ripples of Evergrande kind of affect other institutions around the world, we might start to see some more bankruptcies. We might see some more liquidations of assets that are held on these balance sheets. And so we know that cryptocurrency isn't held by a huge number of institutions. It is held by some. And the typical kind of institutions that are going to have exposure to Evergrande stock, right? So we know that although Evergrande's liquidations are bad, it's going to affect people directly, there's going to be the indirect liquidation event from Evergrande assets. So where we see other companies who hold stock in Evergrande, their balance sheets are going to be affected as well. So we want to be quite concerned with here, and we'll be quite conservative as well. You know, we'll hope for the best, but expect the worst. I think that's kind of the best way to kind of approach this. As we've already seen, and it's only been a few hours, and trading has been suspended at the moment, Evergrande stock fell by 20%. That's going to hurt a lot of other institutional level investors who have exposure to the stock market. Now they might have or they may not have Bitcoin, Ethereum and other cryptocurrency assets on their books. Now, if they do, and they're already being hit pretty hard, they could be facing more issues with bankruptcy. The ripple effect of Evergrande could span many companies, hundreds or maybe even thousands of companies around the world. So this is going to affect a lot more than just the people directly involved in Evergrande. The stock position on Evergrande is where I think the most damage is likely to be seen. It's not going to be with the creditors on, BlackRock and HSBC of Evergrande, even though we've got Deloitte coming out saying that their recovery rate is going to be lower than 3%, bearing in mind 200 billion. I'll let you guys work out what under 3% of that's going to be. So we know that those guys are going to get hit pretty hard, but they're going to be looking at other assets that they might look to liquidate in order to kind of minimize damage. Personally, I think the wins here for any investors or potential investors is to look at the companies that own Evergrande stock. What are their positions and what is their stock position? Because I do think that we're going to see a bit of a cascading liquidation event occurring on the back of Evergrande, and that could have an impact on Bitcoin if some of those companies that are then getting liquidated have exposure to Bitcoin and the cryptocurrencies as well. That could cause liquidation of those assets, which will then cause a cascading effect of the crypto market, potentially pulling back even more significantly than we were first anticipating. Obviously, I've been talking about $30,000 Bitcoin for quite some time. It's great to see that we moved down to 38, but I don't think that's anywhere near where we're going to finalize. Evergrande could cause issues in the cryptocurrency market with causing cascading liquidation events of companies, which could then cause cascading liquidations of leverage positions, and you can kind of see the damage here could be very catastrophic. So I'm happy to be in short positions, as I have been for close to probably 6 or so weeks now. The problem that we have is that we do still see 2024 as a really good year. We have FOMC coming up as well. That's going to be interesting to see what happens with the interest rates. But ultimately, I think we're not in a good position at the moment. If the Fed decide to pivot, this could really accelerate the stock market dumping and the crypto market dumping. I think we're going to be in some pretty turbulent few months before we get to the Bitcoin halving event, which might be our saving grace in the coming months. Ultimately, this is kind of as expected, although not expected at the same time. And what I mean by this is we're expecting a move to the downside in the cryptocurrency markets and the stock markets alike. And I think Evergrande is going to be that catalyst. Now, we didn't know that, we didn't predict that it was going to be Evergrande that got us there, but I do see Evergrande as the potential root cause of a massive move to the downside in the stock market and in the crypto market. Compound that down by the Fed over in the US reducing their interest rates, and we could be in a really tight spot for a couple of months. But the good news is it will be short-lived. I think once we see the damage, once the damage is done, over with, cryptocurrency has pulled back 30, maybe 20 if it's really unfortunate, then we might find ourselves in a really good strong support range that could take us up to significant heights into that significant bull run that we do believe is just around the corner. But I expect things to get worse before they get better. If you want to know some of the cryptocurrencies that I think are going to perform incredibly well, then why not check out this video right here where I discuss what is going on from their technical analysis aspects.